I thank the Executive Director of the United Nations Population Fund for his briefing, and I now give the floor to the last briefer, Mr. Atam Sandhu, Chief Executive of Developing Markets Associates.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you to the President of the General Assembly, to the distinguished speakers and to the excellent speakers before me, and to that very moving testimony at the beginning of your last presentation, Executive Director. I remember that case very well and was really sorry to hear that. My role here doesn't compete with the private and the human loss that Ebola has caused over the 3 countries. I'm looking at this very much from the business response and the business perspective and what the business community can do in response to what's happened over the past 2 years. And thank you, President, for inviting me to do that. So aside from this terrible human cost, Ebola's had a devastating impact on the economies of Sierra Leone, of Liberia and of Guinea. And that damage has been compounded by the fact that we have plunging global commodity prices, and we've got reduced demand. And we've got to understand that these 3 economies are very much 3 mineral-dependent economies. It has been devastating in the region. We know that many companies in the region haven't been able to survive, that some have chosen to withdraw until a better time, and that others have been forced to consolidate and draw back operations. But now, after what's been done over the past 2 years by the UN agencies, by the individual governments, by the donor conference that's been spoken about, it really is up to the private sector to step up and create the job creation, the wealth creation opportunities that are required to get those 3 countries back on track. And before I do that, perhaps I'd first like to acknowledge some of the organisations that have stuck within country and have reinvested back into the social fabrics of the countries that they've been invested into. And very quickly, I'll just refer to the global mining giant ArcelorMittal, who set up the Ebola private sector mobilization group that collected over 100 companies globally to support humanitarian and first healthcare responder networks, and at the same time it maintained its operations. It employed all of its staff, it continued to employ its supply chain as well, and it continued to reinvest back into the local community at a time when the global iron ore market was under incredible stress and still is. In Guinea, Rio Tinto invested massively into a health program. It provided 250,000 sanitation kits, contributed tens of millions of dollars back into the local infrastructure as well, and today its commitment is total. It kickstarts a supply chain tender for the biggest single issue investment on the continent, Mount Simandu, a multi-billion-dollar opportunity. In Sierra Leone, Sierra Rutile is the country's largest company. It rebounded from the impact of the virus a few months ago. This is before tomorrow's date of Sierra having declared itself Ebola-free. So these companies are already reinvesting back into jobs, into job creation, into wealth creation, and into the local economic fabrics of their countries. And now that the region is effectively Ebola-free for now, the investor community needs to know that. It doesn't. And it doesn't know that the region, until 2 years ago, was one of the fastest growing on Earth in terms of GDP growth. It doesn't know that it contains one of the largest untapped iron ore deposits on the planet, and it doesn't know that it contains the largest natural harbour on the African continent. The opportunities are enormous. That's what we're going to do next month. In the UK, in London, we're hosting a major investment summit. It's called a Global Business Response to Ebola. It's in central London, and London is the originator of much of the capital investment onto the African continent on the 24th and 25th. And it's a globally supported summit. It's going to accelerate investment into the region, and it's going to aid the recovery process, and it's going to be a significant private sector actor in the whole reinvestment program. It's going to be the first major international event that brings together all main public and private actors in one place to focus on inward investment and on the role of the private sector for growth. We're going to have high-level interventions from the heads of state of the 3 most affected countries, together with key participation from the international community and the private sector. And we really believe that this is going to be transformative in the drive back to economic growth in the region. 2016 can mark the beginning of a new era for the region, and we're optimistic that the three countries are going to emerge much stronger with a new sense of urgency in terms of the investment landscape for the three countries as well. And we'd urge every country, every NGO, every global company with a footprint in West Africa, not just in the three affected countries, to support this generation in London next month. It's a human narrative, as we've heard. It's a compelling investment case. As a standalone subject, it's a compelling investment case to go to the three countries of the Mana River Union. We hope the global investment response to Ebola is going to kickstart a really solid investment process back into the region. And details can be found on developingmarkets.com. Thank you.
I thank the Chief Executive of the Developing Markets Associates for his briefing. And I now open the floor for comments and